Welcome. Scott.
Looks as though we have a pretty good crowd this morning. I know a lot of you know about the work our cold case sex assault unit does. In fact, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago we talked about some recent cases that they were involved with that they brought some resolution to. They've been on the book since 2006 and just have reviewed, thousands of cases, cleared hundreds of them through some just tireless work and dedication to our community. What I'd like to do this morning is talk a little bit with, about a case that they recently cleared involving just a prolific person who has been has quite a lengthy criminal history. This guy's been locked up more than 50 times. Some just really egregious charges through the years, and we were able to, through large part, our cold case sex assault unit lock this individual up for a couple of rapes that he committed way back in 1990 and 94, a 17-year-old girl and an 18-year-old girl, respectively, and just some tremendous work went into this. So I'd like to go ahead and introduce Sergeant Darrell Price. A lot of you know him, been around for quite a long time and seen quite a few things, and I think Darrell can really give you a good snapshot of how this whole thing came together and, more importantly, the work involved with the cold case sex assault unit. So with that said, Sergeant Darrell Price.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
Good morning. First off, this is a case. This is two different cases. We had a case in 1990 and a case in 1994. I'll give you just a few details on the 1990 case. It was relatively unique in the way that he committed this crime. The victim was backing up. He pulled a ruse on her by tapping the back of her car. She thought she had hit someone. She stopped. He forced her back into the car where he committed a sex assault on her. He took her couple of items from her at that time and then fled the scene after the sexual assault. At that time we had no suspects. There was no suspect information in 1990, and so the case went cold. In 1994 there was another assault where a girl was walking down the road. A man pulled up, inquired about sexual acts. She told him no, she was not a prostitute. So he then forced her into the vehicle where he committed a sex assault on that female as well. These two cases were not linked because they were different in MO. There's 4 years apart, so they both were cold. As a result of the Danny grant, over 800 cases were sent off to a private lab to help relieve the burden of our lab processing all these cases. And then we got a DNA hit linking these two cases together and identifying the suspect in this case. Suspect was Warren Lee Caldwell. His date of birth is 11/10/61, and thanks to the Danny grant, we're starting to get more and more DNA hits. We expect this year to be a stellar year for us. Already in just 2 months, we've made 4 arrests in 4 cases. And going back to 2006, we'd only had 82 arrests going back to 2006. So you can see that this is a huge jump in our arrest rate. We hope that this continues, and we expect that by the end of the year, we're going to have more and more and more arrests. And they're going to be, generally, it's my belief, there are going to be multiple cases on the same suspect. Does anybody have any questions?
When was this latest arrest made?
We made the arrest on the 3rd. Warrants were signed on the 26th of February, and they were turned over to our VCAT unit. He was located and arrested on March 3rd.
The Danny grant, fill us a little bit on that, Darrell. What exactly is that? How much, and what does it do?
Okay, Danny grant is a grant that was given to multiple agencies throughout the United States from the District Attorney's Office of New York to help process kits that had either previously not been processed or for whatever reason. And as everybody knows, Charlotte has had a few of those. So we submitted, I think it was 885 cases in the Danny grant to be processed through a private lab. We're well over 3/4 of the way through with those processes. Now that doesn't mean we've gotten results. I think we have a couple of hundred left, but there's also another grant out there that we're also utilizing, the SACI grant, which is a federal grant, and we've submitted 300 cases on that grant. And we're still in the very beginning stages of getting a return on those cases.
Those 885 plus the 300 for the other, is that the total amount of outstanding rape kits that you have, or?
I don't understand the question.
How many do you have outstanding right now that you would like to test? Is this all of them, or is this just
Well,
a portion?
I think I understand the question. So any case that occurs from about 2 years ago forward, our lab is processing those as they happen. So these are cases, the 300 that went to Saki were partially tested kits, which is pre-DNA. Back when they did serology, it was blood typing and things of that nature. So we're retesting those cases. The 885 were kits that either weren't tested for one reason or another. So does that answer your question?
So it sounds like there's 500 that need more accurate results still that you're still waiting for. 200 from one and 300 from the other.
Approximately. That's a real approximate number.
And what's the holdup with those? Can you just kind of take us through and how much urgency you guys feel about it?
Well, DNA work takes a long time. Obviously, the labs that we've submitted our kits to, it's a private lab, and they've, especially the Danny Grant lab it's Bodie, and Bodie has received not only Charlotte, but all of the jurisdictions that was given money through Danny. So we're one of many, many agencies. So we're not like submitting a kit and getting a result within a month. It takes several months for us to get results, and we're sending them up in smaller batches. So I would say there's no urgency for us, because now we're starting to get so much work back that by the time we get our work back, we're starting to get bogged down now, which is a good thing. I mean, we love to be bogged down with DNA hits.
Is this gentleman you arrested, has he been, during those 27 years, or even the 4 years in between those two assaults, is there evidence that he's committed more? Did he serve time for sex crimes in between that time?
I know there's a yes in there, but I don't know the exact answer. As Rob told you, he's been arrested numerous times. Now, you're going back to 1990 and 94, he would have been 30 years old. Now he's 56 years old. I do not have his arrest record in front of me and what he was convicted of. That'd probably be pretty easy to figure out, but I know there's some cases in there where he's accused of committing crimes against a juvenile. He's also on the sex offender registry list. So there is, I just don't have that answer for you.
Is he incarcerated right now, or
He
you
is.
arrested him? So you,
Warrants were signed on February 26th for 2 counts of second-degree rape and common law robbery, first-degree kidnapping. And then on March 3rd, VCAT was able to locate and arrest him.
Did you say how old the victims were in those 2 cases?
In the 1990 case, the victim was 18 years old. In the 1994, she was 17 years old.
Did they happen in apartment complexes or shopping centers? Or?
Just out in the road. I mean, because the first one was, I don't know the exact location, but she was backing when she thought she had run over someone. When she stopped the car, he forced her in the car. The second one was walking down the street, so he pulled over and abducted her.
Did you have contact with these victims when notification was made, or?
My detective did, and they were extremely grateful. Both are extremely positive and want to move forward with prosecution in these cases. They were extremely grateful, though, that this program takes place.
With the new kits being tested and the new money that you have, and that means more information is coming into the department, do you think more staff needs to be hired now to deal with that influx of cases that you could be solving?
Well, you know, if I answer that question, you could be talking to a new sergeant next time you're in here. But obviously, as we get more hits coming in, we're probably going to need a little more help, whether it be temporary help or something. Currently, you know, our cold case unit is fully staffed. We have a great staff of people, and we also have some volunteers that help out. Should the case happen to where we get a batch of 30 or 40 DNA hits, then I'll probably be approaching my bosses to say I at least need some temporary help so that we can get this cleared up, because like in this case, we get a DNA hit on a guy who committed 2 rapes who's out walking the streets. We definitely need to get these people off the streets as quickly as possible. And in a lot of cases, we get DNA hits and they're in prison for another 10 years. They are not as critical, but anybody that's still out there walking, talking, and committing crimes, we want to get them off the street as possible, as soon as possible.
No, we appreciate you.
Okay.
Sarge. Members of guys.
Thank you.
Gals are up there, and just to, thanks, sir. Thank you. Just to dovetail off of what the Sarge said, we'll have that coming out in, Officer Wallen indicates that that press release is ready to go, and we'll get that out to you in the short order. It'll give you all the specifics on the person who was locked up, and a little bit about his criminal history and some of the work that went into this. So appreciate the sergeant, appreciate the work that his folks do. It's important work, and safe to say that our community should feel a lot better knowing that this cat's in jail this morning. So what do we got?
What's the latest on the homicide this morning? Hadn't been much put out on it yet?
Yeah, still looking for a suspect. It's over on Atmore, as you probably remember from this morning. It's my understanding that we have identified who the victim is, and we are attempting, as we speak right now, to contact family members of the person. It's a man. Asking anyone in the community with information to pass that information along through our Crime Stoppers tip line. It's our 9th homicide so far this year. That's down from 14 this time last year, and our clearance rate's hovering right around 50% so far this year.
Too early to say if it was random or?
Yeah, I think that'd be fair to say that it'd be kind of early to say that. I know that they're still out there. They're still working the scene and gathering information and speaking with potential witnesses to try to figure out exactly what's at play there. Again, I think one of the more important things I could underscore is just how important it is for community members, if they know anything, to pass that information along. I know it sounds like a broken record, $5,000 for information leading to an arrest in a homicide case. That's cash money through our Crime Stoppers program. Simply call 704-334-1600. Don't need to know who you are. Don't need to know where you are. You don't have to testify in court. We just simply need that information to run down.
Piggybacking off of that, this homicide that happened Sunday at the QT gas station, from what I've seen on social media, there was quite a crowd of teenagers there. A lot of these friends of the victim may be afraid to come forward in this case. What do you have to say to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. You already have one individual that's dead, and to your point, I think we'd be hard-pressed to think that somebody out there doesn't know something. They know something, they got to say something. You know, critically important that people understand that, you know, information that they pass along to us remains confidential. Nobody's going to be outed. Nobody's going to, especially if you go through Crime Stoppers, nobody's going to be able to or have to, forced to testify in court. That's not discoverable information that we receive through Crime Stoppers. You know, you're right. There was a significant crowd out there, and somebody knows something, and they should go ahead and pass that information along.
Mario Black, the founder of the Million Youth March, is his second cousin, I understand, and he's pretty shaken up about this. Any word of consolation to the family at this point, or is it still too early?
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? You know, another senseless, you know, murder. You know, a young person. You know, what I mean, I guess words would ring hollow. I think what they're more probably interested in is action, and a good part of that action should involve somebody in the community speaking up and allowing us, our detectives, our seasoned detectives, to do their work and get this person or persons off the streets of our community. So I don't know what I could say. I mean, I know Mario, you know, I know the family. You know, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking any time we lose a young person in our community, especially so senselessly.
Rob, following up on last week, there was some talk about requests by police officers for raises.
Yeah.
And there's also some news out there that other departments are recruiting here.
Yeah.
2 questions. One is, does the chief plan to push for raises in the new budget? And number 2, what else is CMPD doing as far as recruiting goes in
Sure.
this situation?
Yeah, 2 great questions. I'll take the first one first. As far as negotiations go, I know that the chief is currently speaking with council members, and there's some really good dialogue going on there. As much as I love everyone in the media, I'm not going to negotiate through the media, and I don't think the chief would like to do that. We really heard some encouraging things coming from the council over the last couple of weeks following that Monday meeting where you saw that display, a very powerful display. I know you saw it. You hear some real encouraging things coming from council members, and you know, knowing what I know about them and that body, you know, it's not lip service. I really believe that there is an appetite for making this right and trying to do whatever it is that they can to bring wages up. You know, the Raleigh situation that you referenced, it doesn't come as any big shock to anyone here in this department. Why wouldn't they come after some of the best law enforcement professionals in the business? That's what we got here. So we understand that our people are very attractive to other agencies. It's flattering in one regard, you know, but on the other hand, we don't want to lose our people to anybody. We put a lot of time, we put a lot of money, we put a lot of work into the people that we have in this organization. They are embedded in our community. They do things the CMPD way, which we think is the best way, and it doesn't surprise us a bit that Raleigh would be doing that. I think it's smart, and it's nothing personal. This is business. This is a business thing.
You guys are doing some kind of recruiting right now?
Yeah, we've got a tremendous number of things going on with our recruitment efforts. I think a lot of you were in this very room just several weeks back when we began the launch of our lateral program, our lateral recruitment program, which has begun in earnest, and you know, we're seeing some traction there. Since then, I don't know how many of you are really following us on social media, but we've launched a campaign this week, especially on social media, a somewhat aggressive campaign trying to attract the best and the brightest from around the country. It's 2017, we've been to more than 100 different types of recruitment events trying to pull some of the sharpest people in the region into the ranks of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and that spanned the whole Southeast, historical black colleges, job fairs, military bases. We've got a really heavy presence right now online with a lot of these online career sites. We find that about 60% of our personnel or people that we attract through online or social media. About another 20% are recommended through CMPD personnel. So look, everything's on the table. I think I've said, and it was probably just last week, just how challenging of a endeavor this is right now to attract people to this profession for a variety of reasons. So, you know, I think the old school way of going about business and the old rule book is old for a reason. We've got to change things up. There's got to be a seismic shift in the way that we go about marketing and trying to recruit, and I think that's what you're seeing at play right now, David.
We've reported, Rob, on how the top-out salary for Raleigh Police Department is higher than Charlotte, even though Charlotte's the bigger department. Do you think, just want to get your reaction to that, is that one of those things you think could change?
Yeah, well, I think it's no big secret that's one of the things that's being looked at right now. You know, I'm not going to go tit for tat with Raleigh. I mean, I think it was impressive the way that they packaged that and really illustrated just how appealing their organization is. I don't know if it's exactly apples to apples. You know, there's a number of different elements that you have to take into consideration with the type of ranks that they have and incentives that they have. But look, I'm not going to squibble over the numbers. You know, it's no secret that our people here are trying to get an increase in their salaries, and I'm optimistic that the right people are listening, and that things are going to work out just fine. Who else?
Is that standard protocol for a police department to try to take officers? Have you heard of that before?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you know, just in the industry we call it poaching, and again, this is no personal affront to us. Look, you know, we're big boys and girls. This is business. This is strictly business. This is nothing personal. We get it. You know, it's not beneath us to do similar type of things, and I suspect you'll start to see even more of an aggressive approach to the way that we recruit. And I think you're already starting to see some of that.
How many openings do you have right now, and how does that compare with typical?
Yeah, I don't know the specific number. I'll get you our vacancy rate and where we stand right there. And that's kind of fluid too, you know, fluid rather. You know, people leaving for a variety of reasons through retirement, attrition, and quitting. You know, just going off into other fields, not necessarily law enforcement fields, but I'll get that for you, David, on what our current vacancy rate is. Who else?
I know not everyone tells you why they're leaving or where they're going, but do you have any idea if you've lost officers to Raleigh before, or if any have gone there?
I'm familiar with one. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that that's the only one. I'd have to go back with HR and find out. You know, I know of one, and it was fairly recently. It was a female officer. That's who I'm aware of. You know, I know that some numbers have been thrown out there. I'm not saying they're not correct. I just haven't been able to vet those numbers. And more importantly, nail them down to find out if they're accurate numbers. So there's that. Of course, when you got something, you feel like you're chomping at the bit. Who else? What do we got? Nobody?
Love those equine metaphors, so that's good.
Just here to please. All right, well, you just check your inboxes. Officer Wallen will have that information out to you shortly. We expect a case update in regard to the Atmore homicide from this morning, probably sometime later this morning once family members have been notified of their loved one's death. And again, push that Crime Stoppers stuff, not only for this case, but the QT case. And let's bring some resolution and get some closure for the families that were involved in this whole thing.
Quick question, Rob. I know you didn't have much time to look at it. Anything about that fraud report regarding cryptocurrency or? Yeah,
that's a kind of a different animal. It's my understanding that this guy was a software engineer. And for those of you in the room who aren't familiar with what Mr. Shabad's referencing, there was a fellow who was $6,000 roughly, who lost about $6,000 in cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is what he's referencing. This guy was a software engineer. He went onto his online wallet and noticed that roughly $6,000 was missing. He files a report, and our financial crimes folks are looking into that as we speak. Really hard to get your arms around this kind of thing. Even from a federal standpoint right now, I understand that they're really trying hard to understand how it is that they regulate this thing, and there's, such a new phenomenon as, things like Bitcoin seem to go by the wayside. You have others that are emerging in the cryptocurrency area. So I can tell you, Alex, that we're investigating it. I don't know what the status is of that investigation at this point, but I know that victim, that software engineer, had to get it on paper that $6,000 went missing. So
basically, he was scammed out of.
That's my understanding.
Money he bought for Bitcoin or something like that?
Yes, yeah. Who else? All righty. We'll see you next go around. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, sir.